Hello, my name is Robert Martinez, and this is Info 261A's assignment on space. I chose to do the New York Public Library's Hamilton Grange Library Teen Center for Professor Velasquez. This is summer session. Anyway, this will be a short short summary of the paper that was submitted for assignment on space. Will be a short slide presentation followed by some pictures, and I will cover the major points of my paper. So here we go. Hamilton Grange Library. It's located in New York, in Harlem, 503 West 145th Street, in a neighborhood called Hamilton Heights, named after Alexander Hamilton's nearby country house, which he called the Grange, back in 1802. The official library branch opened on January 8th, 1907. It's designed as Italian palazzo style, which I find interesting when juxtaposed to other buildings around it. I have the architectural firm cited here, and it became a U.S. landmark in 1970. It's a New York landmark building, or a U.S. landmark building in New York. It's based on the Italian palazzo style. It's American Renaissance revival, which is popular from the late 1800s to early 1920s. They're usually 3 stories tall. They have a lot of symmetrical facades with a kind of a stately appearance, a lot of windows, overhanging eaves. There's usually some column work, or at least some faux column work, some very rusticated stone masonry, cornices, arches, molding. The large amount of windows opens up the space inside, giving a lot of natural lighting. High ceilings are a part of this design as well, creating a sense of openness, comfort, and a consequent feeling of relaxation and focus, which is, I think, paramount when it comes to creating space for teens, because their days are often very, as a teacher of middle schoolers, I can say with some credibility that their days are often rushed and hectic, and they're always on the go, and they've got a million places to do or to go and people to see, and so a open, relaxing space after a day, especially in New York when they're probably cramped on a subway, or feeling cramped in the street, or in the confines of their school hallways, really kind of facilitates a study mindset. So, fast facts there. I'm also, in my paper, referred to the Nordic force-based model as a way to design and think about libraries conceptually. And it works well for thinking about teen spaces. And the teen center here in Hamilton Grange Library offers a good physical embodiment of those qualities, some of the qualities that the Nordic force-based model espouses. And it's a way to kind of create outcomes for library users based on a tangible goal set, rather than traditional established architectural or design frameworks. Even though this library does fit into the American Renaissance revival, inside is not all the same as the outside. There's 4 major overlapping concept or design areas. These include learning, inspiration, performance, and the last one is learning, inspiration, meeting, and performance. So it is developed by the Denmark Committee on Public Libraries, actually first published by Henrik Jochumsen. I'm not familiar with Danish names. And I chose to focus on 2 of these 4 Nordic spaces, Nordic space model spaces, learning and performance, because I kind of felt like the inspiration and meeting spaces were kind of derivative from the learning and performance spaces. Like, to learn you have to meet, either have a meeting with yourself and the library, or you have to have a meeting with other people. And the performance space and learning space, a kind of inspiration, I would say, kind of follows from that. Although to inspire learning and performance desires in students is important, but I kind of felt like these were the more primary ones, so I decided to focus on those. In my analysis, I got a good quote from the president, who kind of itemized everything that was in there as far as equipment and really listening to teens and what they wanted. Part of the New York Public Library's goal with this was to really listen to teen feedback, which of course is excellent practice always. So it's a very technically up-to-date facility. A lot of modern, open, colorful interiors with comfortable furniture. We'll see some pictures in a little bit. So yeah, it's well lit because of the plethora of windows. There are comfortable bean bags and lounging sofas. That was a huge thing that in my studies I saw, or my review I saw, the studies that this library commissioned that were finding that teens were really, really concerned about comfort. And one can imagine in a landscape like New York that discomfort is kind of part and parcel of the daily life. Like, you're stuck on the subway, you're stuck in a cab, you're on the street, the weather's maybe not that great, you're in a cramped school. Like, the comfort was really important to them, and I think that was really a design element they highlighted here. It follows recommendations that we can see in the literature that I reviewed. That the library indeed follows a lot of the recommendations and goals of the authors that I reviewed. Moving on, they've got a large modular performance space. It can be redeployed as a group hangout, meeting group, or study zone, as well as a more formalized performance space for music and dramatic productions. It can also be a game or media hub. It's got good acoustics because of the high ceilings, and it's really done an amazing way of keeping things dynamic, and putting some really awesome theory to work in a spatial context. And there, however, it was as advanced as it was. I did see a couple things I would improve, especially when I compared it to another teen space, which we will see a picture of in a minute. In the library in Los Angeles called Teenscape. I needed kind of a basis of comparison for such an amazing place. I wanted to compare it to another library that had done something similar. So the recommendations that I came up with were that the photo evidence I looked at, and the critical analysis that went along with that, as far as the readings that I uncovered, revealed a few shortcomings. The teens reflected that they needed some more individual study rooms. There was kind of a tendency, I don't want to say bias, but a tendency for librarians to assume they always wanted to be together and to work in groups, which of course is important, but the teens really wanted some individual study time. And again, one can imagine in a city like New York, where you're crammed together with people all the time, that they would want some personal time, and then maybe going home to their families. They might be crowded at home. There's distractions, brothers and sisters and parents and whatever else. They really needed some time to be by themselves. In the floor plan, which we'll see below, there wasn't a large amount of study rooms on this floor in the teen center itself. In the other parts of the library, there are, but on the teen center itself, there was not a lot of individual study rooms. Maybe a handful. We'll see in a minute. The circulation desk. Here was a critical difference, and we'll see some comparison photos. A larger, better labeled circulation desk with more staffing. The circulation desk in the center appears to only accommodate 2 or 3 librarians, and it's kind of against the wall and out of the way, not really making a big deal of itself, which one could imagine teens would want their own space and not to have adults kind of intruding in, but as a teacher, teens are, not the first people to go ahead and ask for help if they need it. So having that help presence, front and center, but in a non-intrusive way, I think is important. So maybe not, they don't want to move it out from the wall, but to label it better, or maybe have multiple smaller stations around, so they were always engaging with it. There's a performance space, this modular performance space that they're so proud of, and what is indeed amazing. It is like right in the middle of everything, and it doesn't have a way to be separate so as not to disturb the other students. There's a group activity room that does have a glass wall, and glass walls I think are really important as I was studying these issues, to keep the flow open as far as the visuals, to not close everything off and make everything dark and enclosed, to keep the visual flow open, but at the same time mitigate auditory distractions, and kind of spark some curiosity, like, oh, what are these kids doing? What are these kids doing? But not so distracting as to be like, well, I can't possibly ignore these kids. I can't get my work done or do what it is I want to do here. Increased feedback and dialogue with teen patrons. This is always an ongoing self-critique by library staff. This is always super important. And services that are available to teens in their native languages. I was looking at the amount of staffing and available languages. And New York is a huge city with a bajillion languages. So having as many languages be spoken in the library as to offer help to those students who need it in different languages is super important too. Of course, that is a budgeting issue to hire all those people, but the attempt should be made. So here is the Hamilton Grange Library, and what I'm going to do here is just kind of move over from the slide presentation to my photo list in the paper itself. So that is the exterior of the Hamilton Grange Library. Again, 3 stories, lots of windows, some faux column work, cornices, arches. The masonry is all keeping with that American Renaissance Revival design, the Italian palazzo style, with this nice brick facade out in the front. So I'm just going to transfer over here, and now we've got, let's do, there we go. There we go. So here is, let's start here. So this is the first photo we saw, the exterior. The second figure is the interior. So notice the bright colors, but it's not everywhere. There's accent walls with patterns, but then it's not gaudy or distracting. There's nice loungy looking chairs, plenty of tables. You can see some bean bags. There's plenty of computer stations. One can see the glass walled activity rooms in the back there to keep the flow open. So it's a very open space with very high ceilings. Plenty of lighting you can see even from the windows, but in addition to it, you have all these kind of wheels and panels and lines of fluorescent lighting. The third figure is the Nordic space model Venn diagram. And as you can see, there's the learning space, performance space, inspiration, and meeting. Each are associated with a kind of resultant quality of experience, innovation, involvement, and empowerment. And then resultant actions, like what the primary verb or motivator or action is supposed to be from that space. So performance spaces are for creation, meeting spaces are for participation, learning spaces exploration, and inspiration is to be exciting, to excite people. So here's another good photo from Figure 4 of the Teen Center, a different viewpoint of that same room. Well, you can see the overhead projector. You can see the activity room in there. I think there was some gaming going on in this photo. But the teens wanted comfort and they wanted technological access, according to the surveys. So you can see plenty of that going on here. Figure 5 is looking down from the bleachers of the performance space. So right now it's kind of a hub meeting space, but these are removable and they can open up that floor to do whatever it is that the teens want to do. And then you can see the circulation desk over here. Note there's only a couple staff there, and it's kind of out of the way, not very well labeled. I would making that recommendation that they maybe have multiple ones in different parts of the floor, because it takes up the whole floor, the third floor of the building. So, the next photo is the activity room and the shelving for the books. Notice that they're not. It's not wall-to-wall books. There is a projector space up here on the white wall. And the shelves are lower to accommodate short stature. So teen biology was considered in this as well. The chairs a little smaller. See the kind of recumbent chairs that are comfortable with got the bean bags there. It looks like they're playing rock band. Here is from the bleachers. So this is that same photo from earlier, but a little farther up. So you can see students on the bleachers as the informal study space, kind of a group hangout, but one can imagine with the couches and tables or beanbags removed, that it could be a performance space. And there's the circulation desk and some stacks. Again, another shot, stacks, circulation, not circulation, computer station. Here is a little diagram of their performance space, how they can modify it. It's a little diagram from the architectural Art Daily. It's an architectural blog, which is pretty cool. Again, here's the space, another view. This is the overhead floor plan. Now, these in the north part, there's these individual little study rooms. There's only like 5 or 6, maybe, for all the teens there. I feel like that's not adequate, especially given the priorities they place on individual space. So one of my recommendations was to be able to increase that space. There is a activity room that is soundproof, and one can see, they call it the open media vitrine. The typical media rooms are insulated and isolated, but they have done well with the acoustics and the glass walls to keep the flow open, but the auditory distraction minimal. This is right here. This is the figure 13 is the Teenscape living room, quote unquote, in the LA Public Library main branch. And this I thought was really kind of a cool use of space, but I feel like it is not open. It's kind of closed off. The circulation desk and stacks are all stuck in the middle. It doesn't really flow that well. It's kind of there's like the little lounge area, but the whole space kind of stops right there. There's no space. It just kind of goes into like stacks and stacks and stacks of things. So while I liked the design and the color, and thought that they were on par with the Hamilton Grange, the layout of the interior I think was lesser in that it was too obtrusive. Anyway, those were my photos, and that was the gist of my project and my conclusions from doing the analysis. I got some great references, both from our class resources and from my own investigations. I have linked as many as I can here, so feel free to peruse them when you read the paper. And that concludes my presentation, so thank you very much.